In ancient times, when men and animals shared one language, the water came and drowned the earth. Sakachat, the first man, took his canoe upon the water. He called on the diving birds to search for the vanished land. But none could stay underwater long enough, dive deep enough. One bird was down for so long, it was given up as drowned. But then it came to the surface. In its beak, Sakachat found mud. Again and again he sent the birds, and with the mud they brought from the bottom of the floodwater, Sakachat made the world again. Scientists also speak of floods happening long ago in the Boreal forest. In ancient times, an inland sea came and went, leaving thick layers of sediment behind. Then, in the age of glaciers, sheets of ice ground across the sediments. When the glaciers inched away to the northeast, their meltwaters could not escape. The way was blocked by the retreating ice. The more the ice melted, the more the land was inundated. Perhaps it was this that led to the Indian legends of Genesis by flood. The upland landscape, strewn with the rock debris left by the glaciers, stood above the highest floodwater. The lowlands were made again when the ice dam melted and the water began to drain away. A flat world surrounded by uplands, covered in meltwater lakes, silt and sand. Over this reborn landscape, the water flowed, pooled, or lay trapped. Underlying bedrock, the ability of rain and snowmelt to drain away, cycles of moisture and fire, determiners of what will grow, what animals will find an opportunity to live. Forests cover the rocky moraine of the modern upland, a mixture of deciduous and coniferous trees. Initially, the poplar and birch shade and protect the young spruce. But slowly, the deciduous forest yields to the conifers. But the process of succession is seldom completed. Fires sweep the landscape clean, dragging succession back to an earlier stage. Shrubbery bursts from the burn, and through this shelter, a new deciduous forest grows. Only where the fires are less frequent because of climate or isolation do the forests of spruce and fir complete their succession. The dark green of conifer is uniform. Fire-protected islands in northern forest lakes are museums of what could have been. The majesty of giant birch, spruce, and fir, renewed in the most gradual ways. Here, the sudden destructions of fire and flood are replaced by a cycle turning much more slowly. An aged birch, dead upon its roots, but standing until a heave of wind, a rub from a living tree, snaps the brittle wood. Full length upon the velvet floor, its splintered edges softening with decay, rounding into the earth. Upon this death, the white life feeds, nurtured by shadows. Shadows cast by still living trees. From the upland to the lowland, the conditions for life change. Rocky moraine gives way to silt and sand, much of it buried under mats of organic soil, long invested with life. A landscape in low relief. Each subtle change in land form signaling a pattern of drainage, a pattern of growth. Sand, upraised and well-drained, is the specialized home of jack pine. A dry environment, often surrounded by wetland. Gothic forms spreading above a simple carpet of ground-hugging plants. Plants adapted to sand and swift drainage. Reindeer lichen, bearberry. Most of the boreal lowlands lose their moisture less quickly. Swamp and mire, wetland forests, ragged and eerie. The opportunity for water to flow, directed by glacial deposits and bedrock beneath the surface, this, in harmony with climate, creates environments for plant and animal life. Where the shape of land allows water to move freely, there is little tree life. Fens, wetlands dominated by low shrubs and sedges. Swamps, slower draining, grown up in tall shrubs and trees. The specialized home of the tamarack. Conifer, but not evergreen. The tamarack needles turn color and fall. Travelers saw these lowlands as an unruly chaos, a place to avoid. In 1810, Northwest Company fur trader Alexander Henry entered what he called the strong or thick woods for the first time. The ground in many places is swampy, and our horses had great difficulty in the bogs. What few little creeks we passed were very bad, with generally a miry bottom. We reached Baptiste's Creek, down which we went, and arrived at its entrance into the Saskatchewan, happy to escape from the thick woods, where neither my man nor myself had been before. Movement of water paints images on the Earth's face, aerial images that no man saw before this century. Figures drawn by water's meander, colored by vegetation and bedrock minerals. Salt, leaching through the bedrock, paints the surface white. Alexander Mackenzie, exploring in search of the Pacific Ocean, saw these salt flats in the 1780s. Salt might be obtained in this country to the westward of the Peace River, where it loses its name in that of the Slave River, from the numerous salt ponds and springs to be found there. These will supply in any quantity, in a state of concretion, salt, perfectly white and clean. When water has drained into a closed basin and cannot move, an entirely different environment is created, the black spruce bog. Plant life slowly decomposing to peat. A spongy floor of damp sphagnum moss and dwarf shrubs adapted to the acid environment. Rain and snowmelt refresh all these watery worlds, wet the bogs, feed the swamps and fens, and finally the flows of water fill the deepest basins. Boreal forest lakes. Some, the shrunken remnants of the old flood, the time of the meltwaters. The boreal forest is finally drained by huge, slow-moving rivers. A relentless flow, swollen by countless rivulets. This peace is broken by occasional sills of resistant bedrock, churning, boiling interludes, calmed again where the channel flattens. The north-bearing rivers mass in the enormous Peace Athabasca Delta. Water grudged from a flat land, slowly seeking the Arctic Ocean. With each line of latitude north, the climate becomes colder, the forests more solidly coniferous. The trees become stunted. The woodland opens out. The transition from boreal to subarctic forest. The borders of the boreal forest are broad and indistinct, both in the north and on its southern frontier, where the mixed woods of poplar and spruce gradually yield to aspen parkland. Between these frontiers, the boreal forest is massive and varied, one forest type grading into another, wetlands interlinking and woven around glacial and pre-glacial topography. Landscape has always dictated our use of the strong woods. As the flood waters drained away and the forests crept in, people followed, using the lakes and rivers as their highways, the shorelines as their homes. But the lack of fertile soil, the extremes of cold, kept the human population of the strong woods small. Then the white man came, exploring for oceans and furs. His fur trade profited mightily for a while, until the fur animals were depleted. To date, we have made little impression on the boreal forest. This landscape remains a fortress, inviting only those kinds of life adapted to its extremes. We probably have the power now to enter that fortress, and if we look upon it as a chaos, we may be inclined to change it. But if we perceive the strong woods another way, as a wilderness, we may be more inclined to leave it be. To preserve the land we Sakachat made last from the mud at the bottom of the meltwater sea.